Welcome back to The World Over Live. My next guest has spent over 20 years practicing pediatric medicine and focusing on adolescent sexual and mental health. She's the president of the American College of Pediatricians to explore whether hormone therapy for kids is a good idea and why teenagers are abstaining from sex. Please help us welcome Dr. Michelle Cretella. Dr. Cretella,
thanks
for being here.
Thank you so much.
I want to start with this whole question of gender. We hear a lot about it, particularly transgender children. Is gender mutable? Can you change genders?
Well, I think it's really important to understand that gender is a psychological and sociological concept. So, in other words, it's our awareness of ourselves as male or female. It's associated maybe with sex stereotypes, sociologically speaking. So it's not, you can't change your sex, but you can impersonate the opposite sex.
So this talk of gender is, what do you say when a young person comes into your office with the parents, and we see in some of the stories in the media, some of my colleagues cover stories of 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds. This is my transgendered son or daughter. And he sees himself as a girl, and he dresses as a girl, and he only thinks of himself as a girl. You say what to him in your clinical practice?
Fortunately, I've encountered it, it has been a parent who was concerned about their child possibly engaging in cross-sex play or cross-dressing, and that is much easier to speak the truth. That these are children who are not identifying with their same-sex parent and same-sex peers. So the proper treatment would be referring for psychotherapy, for an evaluation of family dynamics. Lots of times there can be very subtle things going on in the home, not abuse, but subtle things where the child picks up cues and internalizes them in a way that throws off their awareness of
their sense of self is what's off then.
Yes.
Not because, I mean, your sex is determined by your biology.
Right, yes.
So the gender is then a self-concept of who I am or what I am.
Correct. So can that self-concept change? Can it be derailed? Yes, absolutely. Most children, by the time they're 3, will recognize, yes, I'm a girl like mommy or a boy like daddy.
Okay, I want to, according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, as many as 98% of gender-confused boys and 88% of gender-confused girls eventually accept their biological sex after naturally passing through puberty. So why are doctors administering hormone therapy to these people before they reach puberty, but prepubescent kids? Right.
There has been, this is a cultural revolution, and medicine does not exist in a vacuum. You know, we physicians are influenced by the culture, by, unfortunately, politics, and that has been truly the biggest pressure, or where the biggest change has arisen. Essentially, what is happening is young children who present to their parents consistently saying, I'm not a boy, mommy, I'm really a little girl, taken to the physicians, referred to gender clinics, diagnosed as, oh, yes, you are a transgender child, we want you to dress and behave like the opposite sex because this will decrease your depression, your emotional stress. And then when it comes time for puberty, we'll put you on puberty blockers so you have more time to decide.
What are your colleagues telling you about adult transgendered people? What has their reaction been after they've gone through puberty and they've gone through these changes? Maybe they've even had a transition, which I won't get too graphic. It's a family show.
Right, certainly. When I penned a statement in more detail about what is happening with children who are labeled as transgender, and when that went public, I did receive calls from therapists who work with the adult population, and the first one who spoke with me said, I want to thank you and the College of Pediatricians because I work in this adult population, they have suffered tremendous abuse as children. There's definitely a subset that has suffered tremendous abuse as children, and it manifests in this way. In the literature, it seems that men who transition fall into two general categories. Some of them are homosexual, and they essentially act out by transitioning and becoming women, sort of fulfill a heterosexual relationship. There is another subset of men who transition purely because they are attracted to the thought of themselves as a woman. So it's more of a sexual fetish, if you will.
Yeah. I want to talk for a moment about the government. We've seen the Obama administration saying, look, these public schools, you have children who identify as transgender, who are being bullied, and therefore they should be allowed to choose which bathrooms they use. This has become a big story nationally. And now we have Carter Ash, the Secretary of Defense, coming out today. And he said the military is now opening itself to transgender people serving. The government seems to be saying, this is normative, there's nothing wrong with this. What is your problem, doctor?
This is mental illness. And in children, it may merely be confusion or emotional disturbance, but when you reach the adult stage, this is mental illness. You do not treat abnormal thinking. Okay, thinking that is not in line with physical reality is disordered. You do not treat a thought disorder with mutilating surgery and hormones. So to do this, to teach this in schools, and then to go and normalize it in the military and society at large, this is cooperating with mental illness.
I have to touch one more point before I let you go. We see the number of teens choosing to engage in sexual activity dropping. The CDC had a recent report. To what do you attribute that?
The Youth Risk Behavior Survey, yes, that is a very encouraging trend. Now, unfortunately, that particular survey does not try to ascertain what is going on in the children's lives and why they're making those decisions. However, there's very good literature out there. We know that parents, kids still look to parents for guidance, most of all. And if parents are very firm and encouraging children to abstain from sex, at least during the teen years, and more ideally till marriage, it makes an impact, contrary to what Planned Parenthood says.
And what about abstinence, teaching abstinence in the schools? Is that what you attribute some of this to? Or Planned Parenthood would say, look, this is attributable to our teaching contraceptives and safe sex practices in the classroom.
They would, except for one problem. The same week, the CDC came out and said that the kids who have had the kids who are sexually active are using birth control and condoms less, and they're the ones who have had the comprehensive sex ed. Kids do not do well with the double message. When you have so-called comprehensive sex ed, which minimizes abstinence and places all the emphasis on condoms and contraception, and oh, by the way, here's how you can get it without your parents knowing, that's a double message, if not outright encouraging the behavior. So it's bound to fail.
Dr. Michelle Cretella, thank you so much for being here.